the bond market. So remember when I was talking about the financial system, so here, if you still remember this graph, so financial system includes the financial markets and the financial intermediaries. So the purpose of a financial system is to channel money from the supply side to demand side. So who are on the supply side of money? So basically savers, right? So supply of money or supply of funds comes from savings. So savings are from individual savers, like you have a savings account at Wells Fargo, at the Chase Bank, at the IBC Bank, right? So you are a saver. So you are actually supplying your saving as a form of money to the demand side. And also we have institutional savers, like for example, like a retirement pension fund, right? A group of people from a certain profession, right? So they have a group saving and they have a certain account at some financial institutions. So previously we talked about, okay, before moving on to financial intermediary. So who are on the demand side of money? So demand of money or demand of funds is associated with borrowers, people who need money, borrowers. So supply, lenders, demand, borrowers, right? Who wants to borrow money? So if you want, you could be on the demand side of money. For example, if you want to borrow money to buy a new car, buy a new house, or to get a personal loan, right? So you could be a saver and you could be also a borrower at the same time. And investors, if you run a business, right? If you remember the example I mentioned before, if you are thinking about building another mega casino resort in Las Vegas, right? It's going to cost you $2 billion cash. And most developers, they don't have $2 billion cash available. So to finance a major casino project in Las Vegas, right? They need to borrow money. So they need to borrow money from commercial banks. So investors, they are also on the demand side of money. Investors are also borrowers. So previously we talked about the money flow through the so-called financial intermediaries from the supply side to demand side, from savers to borrowers, from lenders, right, to borrowers. Okay, so what are financial intermediaries? The most obvious example is a commercial bank. So what's a commercial bank? If you remember, you can go banks such as Wells Fargo, Chase Bank, Bank of America, IBC Bank, US Bank, and some other Texas credit union, right? So any bank, you can walk in, you can open the personal checking and saving account. So that's a commercial bank. So commercial bank takes deposit from people who open checking and saving accounts, right? So commercial banks take money from depositor, and then commercial bank lend money to loan seekers. So for example, people who want to get a mortgage, want to get a educational loan, who want to get a auto loan, right? So they can get a loan from a commercial bank. So commercial bank is a quintessential example of a financial intermediary. And I talked about another financial intermediary called a mutual fund. So so if for people, if you want to invest in the stock market, right, you want to buy stocks, but many stocks, so for example, Amazon, it's very pricey, very expensive. So each share of an Amazon stock is going to cost you $2,000, very expensive. And in general, you have to buy at least a minimum amount of stocks. You cannot simply just buy one share. It doesn't work that way, right? So if you have, so for example, $5,000, right, you won't be able to buy 3 shares of Amazon stock. But how can you invest in stock market? In this case, you can indirectly invest in the stock market by buying the so-called mutual funds. Mutual funds, for example, corporations like Fidelity and Vanguard, right? So they pull money from many small investors, people who chips in $3,000, $5,000, $7,000, right? So maybe like a Fidelity, a typical mutual funds company, pulls in like a small contribution from thousands of small investors, right? So each individual investor, they can only chip in a couple $1,000s, right? But together, they may end up with a multi-million-dollar investment pool. So mutual fund is going to use that money from individual contributor to buy all kind of stocks, bonds, foreign currencies, real estates, right? So that's the basic idea for a mutual fund. If this fund makes money and the mutual fund company is going to send money according to your contribution back to individual contributors. So commercial banks, mutual funds, they are part of the so-called financial intermediary. But there's another component in the financial system called the financial market. So you see it's a plural form, right? So that means there are many different forms of financial markets. So the basic idea for financial markets is very similar to a financial intermediary. Financial market functions as an intermediary to channel money from the supply side to demand side. So today I'm going to start with our first specific financial market. It's called a bond market. So how can money flow from the supply side, from savers, from lenders, right? The money go through a bond market to potential borrowers, investors, and the demand side of money. Okay, so we're going to. So if you have downloaded those supplemental slides, right, you can see something like this. So our textbook is quite concise on the bond market, but I think it's important to elaborate more on the bond market. So what is a bond? Essentially, bond is a certificate, kind of like a certificate. So bond is kind of like I owe you money. So for example, who wants to borrow money? So if you want to borrow money, right, you can get a loan from a commercial bank, IBC Bank, Chase Bank, you can get an auto loan, you can get a personal loan, you can get a mortgage, right? But there are other borrowers in the economy. I'm not talking about the individual borrowers. So for example, the US federal government wants to borrow money. The US federal government wants to borrow, so for example, $2 billion US dollars, right, to finance some specific government projects or to pay for another war, to pay for the purchase of new military equipment, or to pay for federal government employees' salaries. State governments, local governments, like a Laredo city government, right? The city government may also need to borrow money. So for example, if the city of Houston wants to build another like a loop, some Houston like a highway, right? But building highway is very costly. So the city of Houston needs, so for example, $20 billion to finance another highway infrastructure project. But the city of Houston does not have $20 billion cash available. But the city needs $20 billion cash right now to finance the project, right? So what should the city government do? The city government should borrow money from the general public. How? Not through a commercial bank. So the city of Houston will not go to Chase Bank or Bank of America to get a personal loan or mortgage loan or auto loan, right? So instead, governments, federal government, local governments, they can borrow money through the bond market by issuing or signing a document, a piece of paper called a bond. Bond essentially is I owe you money. So for example, here for this piece of paper, right? A bond in general has several features. So first, what is a bond? Bond is just a legal document, sometimes also called a financial instrument or financial asset. So bond has several important features. The first feature is called face value. So what's the face value? See this bond, for example, right? You see this number. This is $100,000, right? This number printed on top of this piece of paper, on top of this bond. This is called the face value for this bond. Note that face value is not the actual price of this bond. Face value, it just means, so for example, if the U.S. federal government, right, issue this bond, why government issues bond? Because governments want to borrow money from the general public. So the bond can be sold in a bond market. Suppose the price for this bond is $5,000, right? You pay $5,000 to the U.S. federal government, and the federal government in exchange gives you this piece of paper. And the bond has a number, a dollar printed on top of it. This is called the face value. The second feature for the bond is called the maturity. So what's the meaning of maturity? So if the government wants to borrow money from you, right, or your friend wants to borrow money from you, it is better to have a term limit, right? Term limit. For how long? I want to borrow money from you for how long, right? So it's better not forever. If someone wants to borrow money from you forever, that means you won't see your money back. So will be treated as a robbery, right? So a thief borrows $100 from you. That just means that thief just like steals $100 from you, or a thug just rob you of $100, right? So borrowing money for forever doesn't make any sense. So in general, if the government or anyone wants to borrow money, right? So it's better to have a maturity or term limit for how long? Maturity. So for example, if the US federal government issue this bond, right? The term limit may be, here we have issue date, right? We have a due and a payable. So this piece of paper was issued in the year 1969 and is due in the year 1970. So for example, the maturity for this bond could be 1 year. That means the US government wants to borrow money from you for some money, maybe $1,000, $1 billion, $1 million, right? For how long? For 1 year. So that's called maturity. That's a second feature for a bond. The number 3 is called coupon rate. So what's coupon rate? That's a special term in the bond market. Essentially, coupon rate is just the interest rate. But it is not called interest rate in the bond market. It's called a coupon rate. So if the government wants to borrow money from you, right? For how long? For 1 year. But to give you some incentive, why should you lend your money to the US federal government? If you have $1,000 in your pocket, right? You have many options regarding what to do with your money. You can spend your money right away. You can put your money in a savings account, right? You can invest in the stock market. You can invest in the foreign exchange market. You can invest in the real estate market, right? Why should you lend your money to the US federal government? So to give you some incentives to make sure you will consider lending your money to the US federal government in the format of buying US federal government bonds. So the bond issuer, in this case, the US federal government, is going to provide you is going to promise you some interest payment. So for example, I want to borrow money from you, right? For how long? For 1 year. So coupon rate, I promise you, I'm going to pay you 5% interest per year. If the face value for this bond is $1,000, let's make the number smaller. So here it's 100,000, right? Doesn't matter. So the idea is the same. So suppose the face value is $1,000. The US government wants to borrow money from you for how long? For 1 year. And the government promises you a 5% per year coupon payment or interest payment. That means during this 1 year period of time, right? The US government has to pay you how much money as interest payment? $1,000 multiplies 5%. The answer is $50, right? So, for example, suppose today is the date, April 21st, 2020, right? For example, if you just bought a US government bond with face value of 1,000 US dollars, maturity 1 year, and the coupon rate 5%. That means the government wants to borrow money from you for how long? For 1 year, with a promise of an interest rate, coupon rate 4%. That means assume everything is fine, right? 1 year later, on April 21st, the year 2021. So first, you will get back how much money? 1,000 US dollars. So see, what's the purpose of face value? Face value is amount of money, right? The bond issuer, in this case, the US federal government, is going to pay you back once this bond is going to expire in 1 year on April 21st, 2021. You will get some money back from the US government. How much money? Face value. And in addition, as a thank you for holding this bond for 1 year, right? So the government also going to pay you how much money as an interest payment. But in the bond market, it's called a coupon payment. So where I know that is be $50. You also get $50 as a coupon payment, right? So in total, you are going to receive how much money from the US federal government 1 year from today? 1,050 US dollars. You see some important feature for bond, right? So we have so-called face value, we have so-called maturity, we have so-called coupon rate. And here I have a question. There's no free lunch, right? Just like a bond. Bond is a piece of paper. It's a legal document called I owe you money. I owe you how much money? In this case, $100,000, right? When should I pay you back? On April 9th, 1970, right? And here maybe some like a coupon payment. So you are gonna, as long as you hold this bond for 1 year, right? I promise you during this 1 year period of time, kind of like a saving account, the interest rate, I'm gonna pay you 4% interest rate. Okay, but there's no free lunch. Remember, if you buy US federal government bond, right? Essentially, you are lending money to the US federal government. How much money did you lend to the US federal government? This question can be also phrased as how much money did you pay to buy this piece of paper called a bond? The price you paid for a bond is actually the amount of money you have lent to the US federal government. The bond price you have paid to buy this piece of paper is the amount of money you have lent to the US federal government. So here comes to our next feature for a bond. It's called bond price. So in general, keep in mind, bond price is not equal to face value. So on the bond, you can see a number printed here, right? In this case, $100,000. This is called face value. This is not the price for this piece of paper, right? The actual price could be higher or lower, or could be equal to. But doesn't have to be equal to, could be higher or lower than this amount of money. So the number you see here, right, just like a cash, even though it looks like cash, but actually it's not, it's a bond. This is not the price for this bond. This is called the face value. So what's the purpose for the face value? Remember from our previous example, face value is the amount of money the bond issuer or the borrower has to pay you once this piece of paper matures, or once you have to, the borrower has to pay you back some amount of money. So if you buy this bond from US federal government for 1 year, right? Today, April 21st, 2020, if the maturity for this bond is 1 year, that means the government wants to borrow money from you for how long? For 1 year. In a year, the government has to pay you back how much money? Face value, $1,000, right? Plus some interest payment. And this interest payment in the bond market is called a coupon payment. Okay, but how about the bond price? Bond price is not fixed. So first, bond price is not equal to its face value in general. and the bond price fluctuates. According to what? Supply and the demand. So the actual price for this bond fluctuates. So I'm going to use this simple bond as an example. So even though the face value is 1,000 US dollars, right? Maturity 1 year, coupon rate 5%. This piece of paper or this bond, right, could be priced right now $900, $950, or $1,020. Could be higher or lower than $1,000. And its price fluctuates depending on supply demand. If more and more people, they want to lend money to the US federal government, or they want to buy US federal government bonds, right? So recall supply demand. If supply is fixed, if there's an increase in demand, right, the equilibrium price is going to rise. So that means if the number of bonds available in the market to purchase is fixed, if more and more people want to buy US federal government bonds, right, will they expect the price for this bond to rise? But on the other side, if not many people are interested in buying US federal government bond, recall supply and demand. If supply is intact, but due to a decrease in demand, the equilibrium price is going to fall, right? If not many people are interested in buying US federal government bond, the bond price is going to drop. So that's why in general, bond price fluctuates. It is not fixed, but the face value is always fixed. Here, suppose you have bought this bond, right? You just bought the US federal government bond today with a face value $1,000 by paying how much money? By paying, suppose the current bond price is $970 US dollars and the maturity 1 year. The government wants to borrow money from you for how long? For 1 year. And the coupon rate 5%. Okay, so here buying bond can be taken as a form of investment. So here in this case, right? So initially today you had paid how much money? You paid $970, right? Buying one piece of paper, US federal government bond with face value 1,000 US dollars, maturity 1 year, coupon rate 5% per year, right? So today you paid, today is April 21st, 2020, you paid $970 in the bond market buying this piece of paper. Assume everything is fine. In 1 year, once this piece of paper matures or when this piece of paper expires because its maturity is 1 year, right? So that means 1 year from today, on April 21st, the year 2021, you are going to receive how much money from our previous example, right? So in total, you are going to receive $1,000 face value and $50 extra from the so-called coupon rate or coupon payment. Here, 5% out of 1,000 US dollars, right? So in 1 year, assume everything is fine, you're going to receive, $1,050, right? So here, over this 1 year period of time, what is your investment profit by holding this bond for 1 year? So your profit, your investment profit by holding this bond for 1 year. So you are going to receive how much money? 1,050, right? Minus how much money have you paid at the very beginning? $970, right? So what's the answer here? $80. So that means by holding this 1 year US federal government bond, you have made how much money? $80 for 1 year, right? So that is the basic feature for the US federal government bond.